Ready? I know, I like it. Call this meeting to order at 6:31, Porter Johnstown Management Committee meeting being held at the council chambers in the municipal office in Spencerville, Ontario. Do I have a mover to approve the agenda? Moved by Mr. Ward and seconded by Mr. Smell. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof? Q, delegations and presentations. We have two tonight. Our first one is going to be our Spencerville photographer and sourdough maker, Mr. Stuart Curry. Go ahead, Mr. Curry.
Good evening, all. It's good to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity to come in and see you all. I moved to Spencerville right at the onset of COVID, and that's how we moved into this community. And because of that, and not being able to really get out and get to know people, I perpetually wandered the streets of this community with my camera photographing it. And it's something that I've been passionate about since the age of 12 years old, is taking photographs. So that's carried on, and this community has really brought that to the forefront. I'm sure I've taken well over 100,000 images of just Spencerville from every angle possible. But I came here tonight because going back, I guess about a year ago, I had an opportunity to get to the Port of Johnstown with one of the photo clubs, and it was a short visit. It was a couple of hours, but I know driving by leading up to that day, there was a pile of salt sitting in the sun against blue sky, and I thought, I can photograph that. And that's what I was looking for. But the morning we were to arrive, it poured rain. And it was not blue sky initially when we got there. And we got an opportunity to go inside the building. But when I got to the salt pile, I kind of looked at it and I thought, yeah, it's kind of going to be hard to photograph. It's a big pile of salt, and what am I going to do with that? So I started walking around, and as I walked to the other side, there was a large puddle that had accumulated on the ground, which gave just the most spectacular shot, I thought, as an opportunity. So here I was down on my hands and knees in the wet pavement with my camera virtually in the puddle, and I managed to capture that image.
Jeez, that is beautiful.
And I thought that that was something that would really potentially look like a great photograph to hang in the Port of Johnstown building. So Leslie, I'd like to be able to give this to you and the port, and I would welcome the opportunity to come in and get some more.
Excellent. Thank you. You get a picture. Yeah. Yeah. Get a picture.
Nice. Thank you.
You get it, Rhonda?
Sean can just send it. Sure.
Okay.
Just a second, move the chair.
A little further. You'll be excited.
There.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Stuart. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Don't forget the,
Weekly delivery.
not a problem. Every Monday will be fine.
Have a good night, all.
Thanks, Stuart.
Yeah, that's right.
And now we have a delegation. Next, people of the RCMP will be speaking. Delegations on the safeties of our St. Lawrence River and surrounding areas.
Sure. Do we have to hold this the whole time? No, we're good. All right, well, thank you, everybody. My name is Corporal Nathan Morano. I'm with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police out of Kingston. This is Constable Mike Forte. He is also with the RCMP out of Kingston. Today, we want to thank you for allowing us to come and speak to you about our mandate, which is recently changed out of Kingston to a pure border integrity mandate. So the long and short of it, Kingston RCMP is responsible for protection of the border between ports of entry. We'll go into this a little bit with this presentation, which we'll try to speed through here for you all.
And if you have questions, please, it's gonna be more interactive, obviously, and more enhancing for you guys if you ask anything that comes along.
This side? Oh, I see. This is probably a logical issue. It's going to be me.
Okay, we got it. We'll
All right, perfect. So as that changes, we'll say one of the biggest changes that's happened for us recently is a change to something called the Safe Third Country Agreement. Safe Third Country Agreement was an act put in place, or an agreement rather, put in place between Canada and the United States in 2004. This agreement, essentially, it was the first of its type anywhere in the world. And that Canada recognized the United States as a safe country, and the United States recognized Canada as a safe country. How that was applied when it came to immigration was if you were a migrant traveling to Canada with the intention of then traveling on to the United States to make a refugee claim, you would be turned around and sent back to Canada, and vice versa, because Canada is a safe country and the United States is a safe country. So your refugee claim would have to be made where you landed. Fast forward to the first Trump administration, there was a mass migration north into Canada through Roxham Road. If you want to just press through there, you can get a couple different photos here. This is Roxham Road here. Roxham Road, as you can see on here, was really just a dead-end road. It ended in the middle of nowhere. On the other side, there was a ditch, and on the other side of that ditch was a cul-de-sac, which was the United States. As information got around, people realized that there was a flaw with the Safe Third Country Agreement. That agreement only was actionable at natural ports of entry, so like Johnstown, Lansdowne, Pearson Airport. If you were to come in between the ports of entry, the Safe Third Country Agreement didn't apply. So if you were a landed migrant in the United States, you could then transfer into Canada through an area between ports of entry and still make an application for a refugee status, which we saw happening en masse. Prior to 2017, like I said, there was nothing there. It was just a road. Given the number of people who came through, the RCMP put up some buildings, processing center, and members from across the country were seconded there to assist with the migration. Fast forward again to 2023, the Biden administration and the Canadian government agreed to change this Safe Third Country Agreement. They made it so it would encompass the entirety of the border of Canada. So it wouldn't matter now if you came through at a port of entry or between a ports of entry. If you're located, you can be turned around and sent back to the host nation, so the United States in our case. The government did, however, provide for a 14-day exclusionary period. So that 14-day exclusionary period means if you were to come into Canada and you were to avoid detection for 14 days, you would then be able to make your refugee claim. You can go ahead and fast forward here. Sorry, I'm just going to move my notes down as well.
So obviously the program that we're part of here, the Border Integrity Program, the mandate is obviously safeguarding the border, right? That's the job for the RCMP. We do it You can see we were out on the marine side stuff, and I was talking with a few people that have seen us out there. Has anyone, you guys seen the boats out there previously? No one?
Oh.
Yeah, have you seen our vessels out there? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so that's one of the, twice in one day. They stop you twice? Okay, well, we'll talk again after, I guess. So obviously that's our mandate right now. And with the current climate in the world, with what's going on, it becomes a little bit more heightened. I think you can kind of sense where Nate was alluding to some of the concerns we have at the current moment, especially with the Safe Third Country Agreement. So you look at what we're here for today is really to help emphasize with you guys what we can do together in helping safeguard Canada, right? So the area that we cover at Kingston goes all the way from Cardinal out to Brighton. It's a massive stretch, right? And we've had a variety of incidents through the last year with human smuggling and things in the area. Just so you guys are aware, it does happen. We have had some incidents right out here. I can't get into specifics with you, but it is ongoing, just so you do know.
Excuse me. You said between Cardinal and Brighton, who takes Cardinal East?
So that's our Cornwall detachment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of our
We-
CMP, and you guys are from Kingston.
Correct.
We actually go out to about Iroquois.
Right,
and that's
okay,
our switch.
good. Thank you.
So as we do all this, obviously, we work in conjunction with CBSA. So the federal government's got these two different bodies, one the RCMP, one the CBSA. So the RCMP is between the ports of entry. CBSA deals with the ports of entry, and they do some other stuff that's in there, right? So we are built right into the Customs Act. The RCMP is written right into the legislation. The OPP and other police agencies are not. Obviously, that's customs things. That's their bread and butter, right? But when you start to think about the ports, people are funneled into the ports. If you're going to cross over in a vehicle or fly in, you have to go through the port. Now, think about between the ports of entry, it's very porous, right? And it becomes very difficult to safeguard that sort of an area, right? And when we think about stuff that goes on from a border integrity, I'm going to steal something that Nate says all the time. When you think of border integrity goes hand in hand with national security. We start thinking of safeguarding the country and keeping it safe. You can see how those two just encompass each other there perfectly, right? CBSA, one of the main differences with us and them too is that they've got immigration regulations. Like that's their bread and butter. Also is dealing with IRPA. So that's the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. We only have limited authorities underneath those. So for people that are smuggling in, that's where we need to work in conjunction with CBSA and deal with those issues.
Absolutely. This slide, it's great. It gives a very brief understanding of the differences between us. When it was made, I don't think it should have said versus and that, like the RCMP and CBSA, we work together all the time. They will be in and out of our office. We'll be in and out of their offices as well. It's important not to have that adversarial look to it, right? We're all in this together. We're doing the same job. We just have different aspects of that job that we have to satisfy.
Complement each
We do, absolutely. It's important to specify some of the differences there, like as Mike was saying, our primary responsibility is not the port of entry. Our primary responsibility is in between. Now, if organized crime is involved, that's something that at the port of entry, the RCMP will become involved with. If it's human smuggling, human trafficking under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, those are all things that the RCMP are mandated to deal with. So we will go in and we'll help CBSA at that point. They'll be involved in the investigation fully as well. However, we'll kind of take steerage of it at that point. As Mike was saying as well, the national security point of view here, or the national security portion of this is, again, one of the reasons why we're out talking to everybody. Prior to, if we were to intercept anybody coming across the border between ports of entry, our primary concern, or one of our primary concerns, is going to be national security. Prior to us taking somebody to CBSA or immigration to be dealt with, according to the immigration policies, we will vet for national security purposes as well to ensure the safety and security of the country.
I think the next slide kind of goes into some of that. Could be wrong. It's the next one.
Yeah. So this is just a great little diagram on what happens and that when we intercept somebody and where they're intercepted. So If we make an intercept or an arrest, often that's as a result of somebody calling us and saying, hey, there's something a little bit weird going on here, something fishy. We have a boat showing up. 3 or 4 people have jumped off with suitcases. There's a taxi waiting for them from out of the area. So that's a very clear example of some indicators, right? So we attend, let's say we effect a traffic stop, we check for status on the people involved. We determine that there is no national security threat. This isn't human smuggling. There's no other criminal activity. Public safety is satisfied at that point. We will contact CBSA. If we need to, we will transfer the people intercepted to CBSA for further processing. Now, on the other hand, it's a clear case of human smuggling. Public safety is not satisfied. They will remain in custody. There's a very active file going through. There was actually some information on it, an article on the CBC the other day involving Cornwall. It's a fairly large human smuggling file that's still before the courts. I won't go into a whole lot of detail because of that, but that would be one of the situations where public safety was not satisfied. That was the case where the boat overturned in Akwesasne and the 2 families have died. So in those cases, people are going to remain in custody. Evidence is going to be secured. We're going to initiate a formal investigation. And at that point in time, CBSA is going to be brought in as well. And that to kind of to parallel our investigation on the immigration side of the house.
Awesome.
That's the boat that got you?
Yeah.
Are those the guys?
Just point to them here. Yeah.
I can give you the food.
Yeah. So you can see some of the ways that we're out there trying to intercept and deal with stuff. Obviously, one of the biggest things I want to sort of point out is when we get information in that can help lead us or steer us as to how we should investigate things or areas to focus on, it helps us out greatly instead of just going out there blindly and hoping we hit a needle in a haystack, right? Some of the obstacles we have at this point in time, obviously we talked about organized crime and that 14-day window. So in your areas, don't just think of the border right at the waterway. Sometimes it's inland, right? Stash houses. You get a group of people living together that, it just seems odd and it's out of place. And with that, I'd also like to highlight, you got to take your lens off a little bit. I think when we start thinking about people, you think of criminals or people that are coming across the border, they might just look like you and I, right? We don't know. We've dealt with a lot of nationalities that would shock you, to put it politely, if that makes sense. I want to be delicate as I say that, but it's not always racialized groups that you're thinking of. All right, what else do we have here? Yeah, I think that's good for that one, right?
Yes. I wouldn't say I'm in charge of it. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not even allowed to touch it, actually.
Is it? So there are several helicopters and that are flying out of different areas of Ontario and Quebec. Given how close we are to Quebec here, you're probably overlapping that, so you're just getting it twice. Yeah.
We got last week, eh?
Yeah. It's, for the time being, it's a fairly standard route that it seems that they're taking. They are literally just hugging the border and along the river and looking. That's really where it's at right now. They did have a success story in Quebec. I know a family was saved. They were about frozen in the bush there.
Great.
Don't know if they would have been seen without the helicopter. So definitely something that works towards the reason why we have it.
Yeah.
There will be some other technology that's going to be deployed along the border here in short order. It really just is dependent upon how quickly it can come to us and how quickly we can actually action to get it out there.
Awesome. So let you have a little look at this slide here. So obviously, as we're dealing with illegal migration, the winter, the ice makes it easier at points and then more difficult at other points, right, to cross. The summer, you're talking river, boat. Oftentimes, believe it or not, we've seen a lot of the human smugglings in rafts. You just buy at Walmart or Canadian Tire, people going across. So if you see that sort of stuff coming right across and coming up on land, like we were chatting about earlier, right? That's where you give us a call. This is what our bread and butter, this is what we're dealing with, right? Yeah, and we just talked about the helicopter a little bit. The helicopter, we're hoping when we start getting more information, we can start setting up ops where we're focusing on specific areas and specific targets of people we're looking to, focus on.
Now, privately owned aircraft and privately owned helicopters, privately owned drones, they're gonna be a little bit more difficult to spot, or at least to say, yeah, I know beyond a doubt that they shouldn't be there. However, it is something to keep an eye on. If you do have a float plane that keeps landing at a specific time, after hours, stuff, those are all things that would help us out to know about. As you go on here, you see motels, hotels, Airbnbs, Verbos, seasonal properties. So they would be called staging areas in our lingo, right? Often it'll be the same motel that's used, same hotels that are being used, just because people are aware of it. It may be in close proximity to a dock. It may be in close proximity to a public boat launch. It may be in close proximity to the traffic or the smuggler. Sorry, I'm also the Central Region Human Trafficking Coordinator, so sometimes this presentation blends into another presentation that I often do.
That's why Rob said you had to keep him on task.
Yeah,
Our boss had mentioned earlier.
100%. Don't let Nate talk about traffic.
Yeah. So then you start talking about these things too, and there's suspicious, like what's suspicious? Well, if somebody rents an Airbnb for 4 days and the bed's not even used, nothing's even been used there, well, maybe they just want it for the dock, right? Things of that nature, right?
Then you can see unusual behavior, traveling at night with no lights. So again, a lot of this is going to look like a lot of different potential crimes, and it's just keeping your mind open to the idea that it may not be a commodity in the sense of guns or drugs that it's being moved, but it could be people as well. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much. I think this is a good slide to launch. I was having some questions along the way, and so I was thinking, what can we do to help? But I mean, basically, everybody, council, township staff, residents in the area as well, should try and keep an eye on things like this. Do you have some sort of a condensed sort of 1 or 2 slides kind of thing that we can put on our website and Facebook and things like that, or is that we're going to see a link for it? Is it? I'm jumping ahead.
If you want to just push ahead to the next slide there. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So these are some things that kind of make our life easier as well. I believe there is a slide on here on further indicators. If there isn't, excuse me, if there isn't, I'll get something together for you and I'll send it out.
Appreciate that. And
Yeah.
Ideally, if you put on there as well, I mean, and maybe it's obvious, maybe it's the obvious call 911, but it would be handy to make sure that people are aware how to contact you as well.
For
In
sure.
case they
And
do something. So.
there is a slide further on with our contact information. It is important to recognize that our number is not a substitute for 911. We are not the police of jurisdiction in this area. That's the OPP. They should be your first contact. If it is 100% border related, feel free to call us and that we will take it up. Chances are the OPP will just call us anyway and give us that information. But,
Okay. Thank you.
so these are a few helpful things: dates of the event, time of the event, location, description. We will never, ever, ever counsel anybody to go out of their way to get any of this information. Your safety is paramount here. Some of the smugglers are not good people. Some of them can be dangerous. It's not just like thinking about southern US where you have coyotes bringing people in. They exist along the northern border as well. So safety is very important. Don't put yourself at risk for any of this. Call us, we'll come and we'll sort it out another way.
Yeah. But a picture, you look at a lot of this stuff here, a photograph answers a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
And everyone seems to have a phone on them these days.
Yeah. If you want to go ahead and move one forward there, yeah.
How much cooperation is there with the US, like how day-to-day coordination?
So our equivalent over in the United States would be the United States Border Patrol.
Yeah.
They do the exact same thing that the RCMP is doing here at the border. If you want to look at it like that, The other things the RCMP does, you can equate us to like the FBI, the CIA for close protection and things of that nature. So there's a lot of similarities in that, but just strictly for the border, it's border protect, yeah, USBP. I'm actually the intel guy for the office and I'm in constant contact with them. We actually have one of their radios and they have our radio.
Yeah.
So if something's going on, we can actually just radio right over to them. Yeah. So it's a great working relationship for the most part. I don't want to go too in depth, but their current mandate from their federal government is sort of shifting. And you can sense where that's going.
We do have something called ShipRider as well, which is a partnership between the RCMP and the U.S. Coast Guard. Mike and I are both trained ShipRider operators, so we can jump on a U.S. Coast Guard boat and we will act as a customs officer accepted in the United States, so we can effect arrests over there. If they're with us, they're peace officers in Canada, so they can do the same. It really just kind of gets rid of that border. And that, so if there is somebody who is making their way across, it doesn't matter which side of the line we're on, we can we can participate in an investigation.
Awesome. So we chatted earlier that basically the RCMP is not the police jurisdiction. Does everyone understand what that means, or do you want me to clarify? It's good? Okay, it doesn't mean that if something's life threatening in front of us or there's an emergency, we are going to assist immediately.
100%.
Don't take that the wrong way. Of course, we're still police officers everywhere in Canada, right? But there's a number up there to call us, and obviously in emergencies, 911 is your first contact point.
And then if you go to the next slide, that's going to be the end of all of our slides here. That gives our 24/7 number as well. If you do have questions for us, I know I've given my business card out. I can pass a few of them along here. And if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Mike. We'll answer them as best we can. If we don't have the answers, we'll find an answer for you. We really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to us today and to learn about what our mandate is in this area. Are there any questions?
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you both, for being here, for what you're doing. I know your job is shifting and it's a difficult time along the water. One thing that wasn't mentioned, and most of it's been human trafficking, is in the media, we certainly hear a lot about fentanyl and drugs. And so very little of what we've discussed has been that. It's been more human aspect of it. Can you give us an insight on any of, or if there is, what
If
we're
there
hearing?
is, if you look at most of the recent data put out either by us or by USBP, you'll see that fentanyl moving across the border is very marginal. There isn't a great deal, in my experience, that has been going across. There are more people than there is fentanyl going across right now. And that goes for both ways.
Right.
Most of the largest drug seizures that we've had in the recent history have been northbound drug seizures, not southbound drug seizures as well. Obviously subject to change in that, but at this point in time, while fentanyl is always an issue in that, regardless of where you are, it's a terrible drug. We haven't seen a lot of it in this area.
Can I follow up?
Go ahead.
The other thing that we hear a fair bit about is guns.
Yeah.
And it seems like most of the illegal guns or the illegal use of guns in Canada is from something that comes across and manages to get through. Are you seeing much of that in this, or again, does it just mostly back to humans?
No, guns happen. That is a going concern. The RCMP, along with CBSA, along with the OPP, are all working towards stemming that. It is difficult, just given such a very different perspective in the United States when it comes to firearms, and just how easy it is to actually acquire them. Most are legally bought in the United States and then transported into Canada, and that by one way or another. Now, you did mention something. I know Mike said that he's going to wheel me in if I start talking about trafficking. However, human trafficking and human smuggling are different things, and that they are legislatively, they're different. Definitionally, they're also different. So just for clarity's sake, human trafficking does not have an element of consent. Human smuggling does. That's the biggest, the most fundamental difference between the two things. Most of the time when we see human smuggling going on, contractually, it will end at a border. So somebody will employ you to drive the boat across the river. Once they hit land, it's done, and that the transaction's completed. Human trafficking, however, that transaction continues. And one of the issues with the 14-day exclusionary period is just how easily it is for a human smuggling event to become a human trafficking event. And that now you have smugglers who are offering false documents, offering to complete the documents for you, offering somewhere for you to stay, like a safe house. That all costs money, and how they will obtain that money can vary. And so it's not always sex trafficking either. We have an issue with labor trafficking in Ontario. It isn't new, but it continues to grow. So that'll be my little bit about trafficking tonight.
Good. Again, on behalf of all of us, thank you for the work that you do on our border. It's certainly refreshing to see the amount of traffic on the I live on the highway too. I live on the water. And to see the amount of traffic on the highway too, to see the unit parked at our Legion area, often our residents are talking about it. Certainly people are taking notice. So thank you both.
Excellent. Thank you again for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Smell.
Thank you. Just one simple question. When we do make the call, can we ask for either one of you gentlemen or? But I do want to thank you for coming. It's a great presentation. I appreciate it. Did a good job.
Just before you leave, we'd like to give some business cards around. I know I have mine, but the mayor and the councillor. That 1-800 number, I wonder if that wouldn't be a good idea to put it down on our boat ramp. We have a nice boat ramp down there in Cardinal.
Is there a sign down there?
I thought there
Do we
was.
know?
There was. I know there's one right on Highway 2.
I saw the one Highway 2 just down from my house, but
If there isn't one by the boat ramp, I'll talk to my boss about that one there.
okay. I think the one we have is that we have to, if we come into Canada, we have to phone. I think that's the one we have with, and that's a federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's-
But we have nothing with the RCMP. So it's something to look at.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I
Oh,
could have-
sorry, Frank, go ahead.
And thanks, officers. And I'm one of the cottagers who lives just west of the elevator. So there's, I think, 10 cottages there. So we're literally on the front lines. And I'll share this with the other cottagers. So we very much appreciate this. My only question is this: if we see someone coming ashore, if we see someone coming to the dock, I take it from your presentation that we actually should not engage those people. We should simply call, whether it be you folks, whether the OPP, make the determination. But it really probably isn't in our best interest or anybody's best interest to try and intercept that traffic. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say, you know what, you need to feel safe in anything that you're doing out there, right? If you feel there's an element that makes it suspicious, I'd certainly leave that up to the police. And if you can, and if you're safe to do so, grab your phone and either take a video or take some pictures. It helps us from an evidentiary perspective, right? If you were to feel safe to go speak with somebody, that's certainly your choice, right? Nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
We would recommend, however, an arm's length approach. And that if you do happen to see somebody come ashore, if you have concerns, call us right away. And that, like Mike said, if you're at a safe distance, snap a photo, and we can try to follow up with it. But we won't ask anybody to put themselves in harm's way to collect any kind of information. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Question. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe trip home, and hope I don't see you out there next year. Sorry? Why not?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. We didn't call a recess, but we are missing a counselor.
Why does that not surprise me? Nothing, Marty.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
No, no. Ah,
gonna give you one of their cards.
okay, let's go to number 5, the minutes of the previous Port of Johnstown Committee meeting, February 18th. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by the mayor, second by Mr. Ward. Questions, comments? All in favor? Thank you. Business arising from the previous Port Management Committee meeting, if any.
Do you
Sorry?
have another set of meeting minutes, Mr. Chair?
Oh, special meeting of the Port Logistic Plan. That's right, March 18th. Thank you. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Mr. Ward and seconded by Mr. Mayor. I can't have Waddy wasn't there. All in favor? Carried. Business arising from the previous Port Management Committee meeting, if any. Any questions, comments? Okay, discussion items.
Oh, wait, sorry. The general
Yes.
manager.
Sorry, we had included the follow-up from the budget under business arising.
Oh, yes, thank you. The 2025 operating and capital budget. Yes, sorry. Leslie, you going to
Sorry.
speak on that, please?
Sure, I'm going to start and then I think the team will all kind of contribute. So just by way of background, so at the last port management meeting, the budget was recommended for approval, but then at the following council meeting, it was deferred pending more information with respect to labor. So I have in the report outlined the labor figures where we were when we started the draft budget. Basically the differences that are increasing both the labor and the benefits, and then just some feedback from us. We do still remain committed to the fact that we are looking to increase the labor pool. We are thankful that the Port Management Committee this year, and as of January, did agree to retain the casual pool. That's been a great benefit to us. So we have outlined this evening three different options. All three include a slight increase in the revenues based on the strong start to 2025 with the increased inbound truck traffic and the 4 vessels that we already have scheduled for later this week and the beginning of April. In addition, there was comments made at the last budget meeting with respect to TSSA approvals for the elevator project. And based on that input from the deputy mayor and in consultation with Jeff, we have agreed that the likelihood of that project under 300,000 going ahead this year with TSSA approval is unlikely. So we are requesting that we transfer that $200,000 towards the lab and the quality control building in hopes that we could get it to closer to finished this season. So I don't know, Sean, if you want to add anything with respect to labor at this point, or
We look at right now, we have 4 vessels.
I just
booked
think-
inside-
just, sorry.
When we look at forwarding in the next month, we already have 4 vessels booked and 2 that haven't been confirmed yet, but are both in preliminary states. We went through a GMP stuff that required extensive, minor training, but extensive housekeeping and follow-up of projects. And we're about to do our second CGC audit tomorrow morning. So we are higher than I've ever experienced in over 30 years for a need of staff. I mean, it's a good problem to have, I think, right? You're keeping everybody that busy, but our volume is increasing so much, the time it takes to stage, the required staff for shipping and receiving at the grain terminal end alone, it's higher than we've been prepared for. We have somewhat of an aging staff, but we also have what we're needing to backfill for a succession plan. So our keeping people on that we have now has given, on my end, more of an opportunity to train than we've been able to do in any past season. So we have a few more training things that are coming up too, that we are going to continue with CSE training, first aid training, and I've got a grading course with a preliminary date set on it to really increase our workforce knowledge base. So we're hopeful everybody continues on the same path we've set up for them. It's been very successful and it's a pretty exciting process. We're looking at guys I haven't seen so committed to the workforce that I've ever been around. So I hope to be able to say the same thing to everybody at this time next year.
Is that it, Leslie?
Yeah, I think we didn't include a recommendation. We just put
Give us three.
the three options.
Mhm.
One is essentially status quo that was originally presented with an increase to the revenue. Option two is an increase to the revenue, but removal of the three proposed utility man one full-time positions. And option three was a kind of a mix of removal of the three full-time positions, also the millwright apprentice opportunity, and then some port promotions and port donations, and a bit of work on the berm to really get that surplus over the 5 million mark.
Questions, comments, Mr. Ward?
Sometimes I love being first. I can really appreciate the adding the 700K and extra. I think it's roughly 700K. I did some numbers just on paper of it. And I can appreciate that. I worry that, if it doesn't materialize and we've committed the resources to it, to be honest. And so, I am struggling with it. I want to just, come out clean like that and say it. And I mean, I understand reducing, we reduced the labor. I think it is in the most aggressive case, I guess, by about 250K from what the budget was. And I'm sort of, like I said, because forecasting revenue is always a difficult thing. You never know what you're going to be able to get out of that. I'd really love to see us come in salaries and benefits around the 3.6 mark, to be honest. And not necessarily put them into full-time positions, just, and if we do start to see that revenue, then I think then we have an opportunity to turn them into into those full-time positions after maybe say into next year sort of thing. But so like I said, I'm a little leery to do it without seeing the revenue and seeing how that actually does translate into revenue, to be honest.
So are you option 1, 2?
I guess I'm option 4. So like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing around 3.5 million.
Option 4, there's no option.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
Oh.
no, I know. I think that
Right.
I'd like to see something a little more aggressive, to be honest.
So you don't want any options?
Well, no, like I said, I'm not none of these options I think are suitable for me as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to staff. I appreciate. I certainly, we've had discussions about my concerns, much like Councillor Ward's, for staffing up and the increased costs of that. It's certainly a large number. We've gone over a lot of the reasons why. We've heard it. There's certainly a change in direction, a change in management, the way that the port's being run. We, as a group, when we hired and we took the chance to do something a little bit different and go more towards an HR guided general manager that would show us through HR how we could increase that top line revenue. We knew that it would come, with some changes, and we knew that it would come with some increased costs. I struggle very much as a business guy with those increased costs, simply because, it relates out every labor is your biggest hit always. And it really is that it's so impactful on the bottom line if the top line doesn't deliver. I don't see a ton of risk in it, and I certainly asked for this to go back. This probably was based mostly on me to come back. I appreciate the options that are written. I appreciate the changes that have been made. Going through them, number 3 is not an option for me, simply because I think the port does so much good in the community. Seeing the grants and the sponsorships cut, I can't go with that. And I can't go with number 2 either, because I simply think getting the approval for Skilled Trades Ontario for an apprentice millwright means too much. We've heard for so long, how much that means there and what that can do to be able to do that stuff in-house. I know there's a lot of equipment that needs to be over the coming years that needs to be upgraded and stuff there as well. And as that apprentice grows, I think it's going to be fantastic. So while I asked for this to go back and I see so much risk in this, risk was part of this, And at the end of the day, I think it's going to turn the surplus that we're looking for. And for those reasons, it's up to us to make sure that we continually monitor and manage. That's why we have these monthly meetings, and to make sure that we recognize if things aren't going the way that we want, we're going to have to pull the reins. But I think we got to give it a shot. So for that, I'm going to go option 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Smell.
Not the mayor, thank you. I have to agree with Tori. I had already picked number 1, and when he was talking, I'm thinking, wait a minute, he's not going to take one. And I'm thinking, like, I like number 1, so I'll be going with it.
Regina, any comments?
Yeah, I think we agree. I agree with what Mayor said about option number 1. Because option number 3, we're part of the community, I guess. And yeah, we really need to keep that going. So yeah, I'll go for option number 1.
Thank you. Mr. Stitt, comments, questions?
So option number 1 is, I see 560-some thousand in labor increases and 400,000 in benefits in the upper part.
Sure.
Is that option 1?
That's right.
So almost $1 million to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Off the bottom line.
That's for 1 year.
Again, we don't hold the voting thing, that's not part of our job, but that's in any other world, that would be a big chunk of, to swallow off your bottom line, right? For me anyways, but, I understand there's benefits in the, getting full-time positions, the millwright position, definitely. I have a soft spot there, but $1 million that's provided everything goes well. Revenue increases and, you get some of that back. That's not really much of a decision for you, but it's my caution.
Thank you, Mr. Stitt. Mr. McCauley?
Yeah, actually a question in terms of the budget numbers. Do those additions, is there an assumption that they are added day 1? Or is it an assumption that they're added during the year, in which case we're only paying half their costs now? If the assumption is day 1, the number is actually reduced by potentially staggering the hiring throughout the year. If instead the assumption is that they're hired throughout the year and you basically average at the middle, hard to say whether we're above or below. So I like option 1, but I would just be interested to know if in fact we're overstating the cost by assuming they're all hired day 1.
Go ahead, Leslie.
That is, Frank, your assumption is correct. We will be staggering the hirings.
Okay, so that being the case, is the cost estimate actually overstated
Yes.
2025?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Stitt.
So through the chair, but so. Sorry. So then if we stagger the cost, but it's still a year, like you're not, that cost is still spread over the year. So it carries over into 2026 and like it doesn't end at the end of this year, right? So it's still a year hit,
That's correct.
right? So it's going to affect 2026's revenue or cost. Okay.
The only thing that will fall off in 2026 is the highest part of the cost for both the labor and benefits is the retention of the senior advisor, which is Mr. Daly. So he's on contract for the entire year, as well as the special projects operations manager, Kevin Saunders, who just actually finished last Friday.
Something else too, I just wanted to, like in the benefits, because of the age of our workforce, there is like probably 60+% of our workforce has at least, I'm going to say 4 weeks vacation, 4 or 5 weeks vacation. So I mean, that keeps increasing every year. The new federal labor code, they introduced 4 additional sick days on top of the 6 that we already provide. Plus, they are also now provided to casual workers, which in the past they weren't. Same with the 3 personal days, which was never in our benefits before, but has been added and is added for casuals depending on the length of time they're there, which, I mean, it's very small. It's 3 months and 30 days for sick. So all of that has increased, plus the we're up to like 15 stat days now because they keep getting it added. So those are all part of our benefits also. So, I mean, we have seen an increase on them in the last couple of years just because of those additional factors put into it.
Also, for council's benefit, just to add on to that, because the port is federally regulated, they do have to monetize that, whereas we don't. So you wouldn't see that in our budget as far as the cost of sick time, the cost of vacations. You wouldn't see any of that in our budget, nor would you do that in a private business either. So you see that vacation time wouldn't necessarily be monetized as part of your budget.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I have one.
Uh,
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Clint, we do hear you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Hey, super. If I may, through the chair,
Go ahead.
thank you. So if I'm hearing it correctly, it's going to add approximately $900,000 to the cost of operating the port. But I'm also hearing that a portion of that is discretionary spend, and a portion of that's beyond our control with regards to the sick days, vacation time, etc. Just wondering what the split might be on the discretionary increase versus the percentage that we're going to have to absorb because we're in operation, because some legislation's changed, and because some vacation time is greater now than it was before. Is there any number on that one? And I do share Randy Stitt's concern because it's a big increase coming from private. But I'd like to know the split, if that's possible. Thank you.
Basically, when I looked at it the other day, if you take all of our employee benefits and you remove the vacation, the stat, the sick, and the personal, those 3
Yeah.
alone, it takes the employee benefits down to about 863,000.
863.
Versus 1.4 that was in the budget.
Okay. And the other chunk that's in there, if I understand correctly, is Mr. Dowley's now on for the full year.
Yes, and then the other portion of the benefits is all the, like, that's just the sick, the vacation, and the personal that I'm taking out. The rest is all your OMERS, your WSIB, your payroll taxes, Sun Life, Canada Life, all of those things, so.
Okay. Thank you. Still a big number. My thought. Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. They didn't know he was on. I'm just
Been here
going
since the start, guys.
Thank you. I'm just gonna close it down. We started our, people don't realize, I don't think the group realizes how understaffed we were down there. It was more good luck than good management, I'll tell you that. I'm down there a couple times, 3 times a week. And with the new conveyor started up, that's 1 full-time man now that's got to come on board and it's got to be trained. And hopefully we cross-train too. So everything is picking up down there more and more. And if you look at your grain operation report, I mean, we have more wheat than we ever had in that port, ever. And you can see the staggering of the income we have in there. So it is a big chunk, no question. But it's, man, I mean, we're just understaffed. And it's just like our roads, guys. If you don't do your roads, eventually it catches up to you. right here. We didn't have the staff. It's catching up to us. So I'm all for option one.
Aaron?
We do have a recommendation.
Yeah, and the recommend is that Port Management Committee recommends that council approve the 2025 operating capital budgets option 1 as presented, and I'll move that.
Need a seconder? Mr. Smell. All in favor? Any questions, comments on this? Further discussion? All in favor? Pass 3-1. No discussion items, so we're going to go to 8 action information items, and 880 is the grain operation and health and safety report. And Sean, you're on.
Thank you, Steve. So we'll just go over it quickly with our overall grain inventory from February. So we had just passed 104,000. 104,102. Our inbound truck traffic, it was strong. We had a lot of bean shipments, which was unprecedented, but our corn was all vessel related. So we're still strong right now through March. When we compare those bottom totals and look all the way over to the 2025, seeing corn 56,000 right now, 56.5. Our wheat, like Steve, thank you, mentioned a few minutes back, we're still sitting at 30,000. Like rolling into March, even after this ended, we're still over that. Our beans sitting at 15.4 at the end of the month, and our rye, barley, and oats was just over 1,300 for a total of 100, as I said, 104. So our total shipments were just over 16,000, 16,270. It was all trucks, mostly wheat. Our total shipment of grain via truck, or ship, sorry, I should have said received on that, and I said ship, sorry about that, but our shipments were at 6,372. The majority, again, was wheat, all heading into the feed market. Quebec bound, sorry. Our labor for the month, most of that was, we did almost 100 bins sweeping, so that was in preparation between grain movement for vessel shipping, and as bins emptied for wheat traffic, we cleaned and prepared them to get ready for the new season. We did have one inspection at the beginning of February, and we had non-GMO business, February 24th through 27th. That was just over 900 ton we did for Ingredion. So that had extra numbers, increased a little for that too, due to our compliance we need for their non-GMOs. We have to hit that standard. If we look at John's health and safety report, again, he spent time with us and we retrained and did everything on a hazard prevention program. He was there for 6.5 days through February. Then we did this right to March 13th. We changed over with safety committee members in March. So we have 2 new members on the committee. They did assessments on the new area in the track shed. There's the receiving pit. They look at the confined space. That'll be continued worked on through the month of March. They have a few new ones that they have to update on their assessments. Quite a few, actually. Went over this, actually came out to us again today. We're going to be reviewing that and going over the port smoking policy. It's getting quite outdated. It was 2018 the last time we did it. We had a follow-up meeting that a few of us attended. We were looking at our confined space rescue training. We have confirmed who that'll be going out to. Just have to assign the PO tomorrow morning. They sent back the quote for us, but they had it in John's name. So I requested that it was sent in the port's name, not John's Consulting. We'll get that organized. Environmental permitting, John did, and he was dealing with that with the general manager on salt management and the harassment and violence program. And he conducted some training because we had a new full-time electrician start. So he spent the time dealing with him and on the administration and quiz side of things. So far, still in 2025, we had 1 learning incident. There's been no lost hours, no concerns for any medical treatment, or no recordable incidents for health and safety. So let's find some wood. Yeah. And then we have our graphic always on there for our previous year to current year labor hours. So we can see the discrepancy of about 600 hours for the month. And it was about 1,700 for the year. I said that was February 12th. We had a AAA on our current inspection, and tomorrow, I hope to say after he leaves, it'll be the same again. That pretty much wrapped our month.
Thank you, Sean. Questions, comments? Mr. Ward? Mr. Mayor?
No, I think I'm okay.
I'm good.
Frank? Can't hear you, Frank.
Yeah, sorry, all good.
Clint? Hello? Mr. Cameron? Is he there? Is he still there? Mr. Cameron, can you hear me? Okay, we're moving on. I just have one question. Labor or the recordable incidents, we had one learning event. Give me an idea, Sean, what was it?
Yeah, it was back in January. Yeah, it was back in January. I tried to find that in my note this morning. I didn't remember.
The incident was related to one of the electricians had bumped his head in the boiler room.
It was
Yeah.
reported last month's meeting as well.
Oh, okay. Hard hat on?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do hurt. Okay, good. And we had a AAA the first time around the first quarter, and we're hoping for another, and we only had a double the year before. So that means that we, maybe with the extra manpower, a little extra cleaning, et cetera, it's got to be helping. Just to offset, make these people a little bit more.
No, it really was because the increase this year,
Right.
when I'm able to, obviously I have the daily reports where I send anybody, when we look at our housekeeping log that I have to do for that GMP program we're in, we did a 16th last year of what we've done now. It's incredible how much more it's been with just that little bit of extra help. 4 people make all the difference. That's the average of what you could lose a week in call-ins between sickness and holidays. It's almost a quarter of our staff from the operations end alone. So it's been exponentially better to have those hands this year.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on to 8B, maintenance report. Jeff, you're going to speak about it? Thank you.
Yes, I will. Work in the maintenance department during the month included the following: installed 8 newly fabricated conveyor roller guards. This is an ongoing project, goes back to the federal safety inspection we had last June, I guess it was, so that we are progressing with that. It is still a big project, but we are gaining ground. Continue with fabrication of said guards. GMP maintenance of all scales. Organization of cement garage and maintenance shop. Over the years, we've compiled way too much scrap. Let's just put it that way. Parts that we thought at some time may be used again, but realistically, they never will be. And it takes up a lot of space, so we're weeding our way through that. Preseason inspection and maintenance of crosscut grain samplers. Preseason inspection and maintenance of ship loaders. This is all in being prepared for obviously the first vessels of the year. Install new belt crossover walk and 7 conveyor. That's just so give the guys access over top of the conveyor. Replace several broken windows throughout the elevator. You're probably going to see that on here every month because it just happens. Weekly, monthly dust system inspections and maintenance. We plow snow and salt as required. Hopefully that's the end of that. I shouldn't have said that. But we removed a section of asphalt from the grading office area. that with the early thaw, the asphalt had just deteriorated to mud, so we scraped it out and put some gravel in it until we can repair it properly. Fabricate and install the steel step in the area of the new receiving conveyor. This wasn't a safety item because that should have been part of the track shed project, but it wasn't, so we looked after that. We test ran and adjusted belt tension and tracking with the new receiving conveyor, so we know that it's ready to go. We rented a 125-foot Genie man lift to repair track 3 loading spout. Electrical department work included test all scale Garner alarms for proper function. This is to prevent messes by scales and Garners plugging ends up back in the lofter and the lofter gets plugged. CGC inspection, testing and certification of rail and marine scales prior to shipping season. So the scales are all good to go. Conduct a monthly premise inspection as per GMP requirements. Test and verify proper function of conveyor belt signal system. This is for the operators and the weighman. It's just another way they have of communicating with each other, and they are all working properly. Install electrical interlocks for new receiving conveyor to 7 lofter. The new receiving pit had to be tied in with electrical interlocks so that it cannot start without the bucket elevator running. Continue with bin temperature system upgrades. We replaced the motor on 8 receiving conveyor. Although this was only installed a year ago, the outboard bearing on the motor was making noise I didn't like, so we changed it, and the supplier actually covered it with warranty, so we got a new motor for free. And our electrical maintenance of ship loaders. If I can say something about the staffing too, it is great. We hired another electrician. He's a young guy. He's anxious to learn, and we're anxious to teach him. It will take the load off of my existing electrician, who through no fault of his own, everybody gets sick from time to time. And I know several times in the last 10 years, during the peak of harvest, I'm the guy that goes in to cover for him when he's not there. So it's really great that we have another electrician there. So any questions?
Questions, comments, Mr. Ward?
Yeah, it was more just, I think it's this the installing a new belt on the crossover, a walkway conveyor 7. That's a big job, I feel like, right? Is that like an easy one, or does it feel like that's a significant job?
It's not a big job.
Okay.
We fabricated these things many years ago, and we had lots of them because at that time there was several access points across the conveyor belts. When we automated them, we took them out. So that gives just one point at that conveyor that the guys can go across.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, like, how do we have lots of belts in stock and everything else?
No, it wasn't a big job.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Smell?
Oh, yeah, through the chair. Just out of curiosity question, when you plow snow and stuff, has the Ministry of Natural Resources ever come to you about that you got to keep it so far away from the river, or do you just don't push it into the
We
river?
just don't push it towards the river at all.
But there has to be a certain distance from
I'm
the
sure
river.
there is.
And-
I know, over the years, we've always been told, don't push it near the water, so we don't.
Okay, and one other curiosity
Yep.
question. Do you have to pay for the salt you use for the parking lots and stuff?
Oh, it's a fortune. No, we have a good relationship with Logistic.
Thank you. Regina? Frank?
Thanks, Jeff. No questions.
Mr. Cameron, are you there? Mr. Cameron? Okay, we're going to move on. And we'll go with the financial report, and Rhonda, you're up. Thank you.
Thank you. So our revenue for the month of February was 381,000. It's an increase of 103,000 over 2024. We saw this significant increase in the grain services mainly due to the high grain storage we have and the continuation of the busy grain receiving schedule for the month. Our expenses were 524,000, which is higher than 2024 by 165,000, mainly due to new positions and increases, along with an increase in the utility usage. The port ended the month with a loss of 143,000 compared to the loss of 81,000 in 2024. The port continues to have an overall increase over 2024 with a year-to-date surplus at a loss of 88,000, which is higher than 2024 by 48,000, which saw a loss of 134,000. Our receivables continue to stay 30 days and under. Our receivables are at 595,000. Our payables are at 589,000, and our cash on hand is at 7.7. And I've included the breakdown of the year to date and the differences and some explanations if you have any questions.
Thank you, Rhonda. Mr. Ward? Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Worthwhile noting that even with the increases that are there, 56K ahead of last year. So, so far so good.
Thank you. Mr. Smell?
No, none here.
Mr. Stitt? Mr. McCauley?
No, thanks, Rhonda. Just the year-over-year breakdown is very helpful. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Cameron? Thank you. Our 8D, General Manager's Report, and Leslie, that's you.
Sure, thank you. So just quickly, I'll highlight my report that was provided. So we do have a new local union executive. So I just wanted to publicly congratulate Brian Smith, Alex Desjardins, and Mike Irving, who took over from Kevin Brown, Chris Letts, and Mike Elliott, who had served for a number of years. So we're looking forward to working with them. And then we have one new member on the negotiating team, which is Kenny Brown, in addition to Rick McDonald, who has been a longstanding member. So we look forward to working with them. It's been a positive relationship so far. We've had a number of meetings, and they're looking forward to being part of the team working on our shared goals. I just want to as well congratulate Brian Smith and Mike Irving on passing their fumigation and pest management courses and obtaining their licenses, and as of March 10th are in their new roles as fumigators. So congratulations to both of them. We've already spoken about welcoming Dylan Mott as the new electrician to the port. He's been a welcome addition. With respect to professional and business development, Mike Moulton, the operations manager, did attend the Grain Elevator and Processing Society annual exchange in Kansas City earlier this month, and that was very productive. He's brought back a lot of information. And then both Mike and the deputy mayor and chair attended the farm show just over 2 weeks ago. There was great feedback on that, and actually great feedback from our staff that they would like to reintroduce a booth, having a booth at the farm show. So I did, apparently now there's a waiting list. So I have added ourselves to the waiting list for 2026. So I think it's fantastic that that idea was brought forward from our staff who had historically attended the booth. So I've just kind of went over the employee training like Sean alluded to earlier. And again, just business networking. We continue to build and maintain strong relationships and look for new partnerships. So we're hoping to bring more information to you on that in the near future. Just as well, I wanted to shout out to Sean, Jeff, and Justin for all their efforts in undertaking the GMP Plus audit a few weeks back. A lot of the stuff that I've been working on will come forward tonight by way of draft policies. And the only other request that we have is because we're federally regulated, we're closed on Good Friday and Easter Monday. And we were wondering if the Port Management Committee would entertain modifying the committee and council meeting schedule in postponing the April meeting to the Tuesday evening.
No problems around here with me. You okay, Mr. Ward? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, the clerk sent out a questionnaire earlier, but yeah, no problem.
Very good. Thank you. Carry on, Leslie.
That's all I had for my report.
Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Thank you for the report, GM. Mine it's more of a comment than it is a question. It's about the new business, and just reading yesterday or the day before, that in Sarnia, there's a company called New Protein International going to be opening up a soy plant, bringing it back to Canada, so it doesn't have to be processed abroad, and it'll do. And I don't know how these numbers make out to you, and that's what I wanted to ask the question for. 70,000 metric tons over the year. It'll produce 17,000 metric tons of soy protein. It sounds like there's lots of room in the Canadian market to support more of this style of plant. I was wondering, we have land, we have product, from a new development. I don't know how you get to that part of the new development, but have we seen anybody kicking tires or anything about bringing development such like that back?
Nothing like that to date, but that's quite intriguing and I would definitely look into it.
Yeah, it says 100 jobs attached to it and quite a bit. It'd certainly support our local economy. Just thought.
Mhm.
Mr. Smell? Mr. Ennis? Mr. Stitt? Mr. McCauley?
Lots of talk about tariffs these days. I was just curious, and I realize this is speculation. From the general manager's perspective, we have any idea how tariffs and this tariff war could impact the port?
I think at this point, there's so much uncertainty from the grain perspective because we deal, and Sean, I look to Sean to add into this, but because our grain is mostly exported either within Canada or internationally beyond the US, I don't think we'll see. And because we've been pretty limited on our project cargo and break bulk, I don't foresee a large issue in that, but I'll defer to Sean if you have any other comments on that.
Hi, Frank. Yeah, I talked to 3 different brokers between last week and this morning. All of them have the only concern of the US dollar. Right now, they're all comfortable in what they booked preseason, but they even still have fear for potential late summer of booking too far ahead for vessels. But it's not for purchasing overseas right now. They're just concerned about meeting the current kind of development they have. Nobody wants to pre-plan so far the way we used to, but everybody's very excited to still buy while they can right through to summer. It's nobody's making the futures buys through winter that we normally see so far. You don't have strong sales when we're still this early into spring, but they normally can forecast me a little bit thicker volume, like if we're looking at October, than anybody will give me now. But they're very confident that it's not going to affect what they're purchasing. They're just, nobody wants to pay more than they have to today. Everybody's still very happy to think the international movement's still going to be there. Just nobody wants to commit for a few more weeks to up to a month before. It's the same game we always play. Nobody wants to get caught with the US dollar being on the wrong side of it. But they're not as concerned for tariffs on our end for grain movement yet. And they're very comfortable. And I hope we can all keep saying that in a few months. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks to you both.
Mr. Cameron? Thank you. I'd like to get a mover and a seconder for 8A, grain operation health and safety report, B, maintenance report, C, financial report, and D, the GM report. Moved by Mr. Mayor, seconded by Mr. Ward. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. We'll go to 8E, follow-up draft surplus sharing policy. Leslie, you're going to talk about this one?
Sure.
Thank you.
Am I okay? Yeah,
Go-
okay.
yeah.
Thought you shut me off for a reason.
I didn't touch you.
Okay. So as you'll recall, at the last port management meeting, we had a draft surplus to initiate some discussion around kind of the elephant that's been in the room and what we wanted, how we wanted to proceed with payment in lieu of taxes, shared services, and then surplus sharing. So the direction at that time, there was some proposed language updates to the policy and direction for the township CAO, myself, and member McCauley to meet. So we did meet on February 27th following that meeting, and outlined in the report are a few questions that we posed and pondered. So, and we all collectively acknowledge that on a long-term basis, it would be ideal for us to have at the forefront of our minds the contingency reserve requirements for the port that would be borne by the strategic planning exercise. However, it was a direction from this committee at the last meeting to bring forward an updated policy. So that's what's here before you this evening. In red are the few changes that are suggested. And the recommendation is that we do proceed with dealing with the surplus for 2024 and authorizing a payment to the township in the amount of 2.2 million. On the premise that the surplus sharing policy then be reviewed in Q3 or early Q4 following completion of the port's strategic plan. So we have a better idea at that point what our contingency reserve should be for the port.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I'll start with you, Mr. Ward, on this action item.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I must confess it was kind of late when I was reading this last night, and so if I've missed something, I apologize. But I just want to make sure that we're clear on the language in the amendment itself, that we have that up to surplus in there somewhere. And it's just maybe missed it last night. Or some other wording. I mean, yeah.
So under the dividend sharing section of the policy, we've updated the language to the dividend sharing will involve the port transferring 1/2 of its audited net surplus to the township. And then in the third paragraph, it includes that should the port require capital for critical projects based on the 5-year capital plan, the port manager, in consultation with the port management committee and at the discretion of council, can reduce that dividend amount.
Yeah, it was late last night. Sorry about that. Yep. It's even in bold red. I apologize. Thank you.
Are you good? Good, Mr. Mayor?
No, I think it gives us a good start on where we're going. I think we'll get to the rest of it in Q3 and Q4 to finalize and to add different additions to this on different policies. So I think this is a great start.
Mr. Smell?
Yeah, I really think it's a great start, and I'm all for what is presented.
Ms. Fernandez? Good. Mr. McCauley?
I think it meets the needs of the township in the short period without compromising the port's financial position, because we do have the cash, but it gives us, I think, the time in concert with the strategic plan to actually set something longer term in place. So I think this works very well in the short term, gives us the chance to do something more permanent in the longer term.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cameron? And thank you very much, Mr. Cameron. So there is a recommendation, I do believe. Yeah, the Port Management Committee recommends that council endorses surplus sharing policy as amended and authorized transfer 2.2 million to the township in 2024, and that the surplus sharing policy be reviewed in Q3 and 4 following completion of the port's strategic plan. Moved by Mr. Mayor and seconded by Mr. Ward. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Done. Had that circled, so. You're talking on this one too, Leslie, the draft accessibility plan. Thank you.
I think do you mind if I do in order, the draft personnel policy first? Okay. So presented for you this evening is the draft non-union personnel policy and employee guide. So quickly, by way of background, historically, actually, since 2015, the township and the port have had one personnel policy and one salary grid. late last fall. As you know, we went through the compensation structures for both the township and the port. And at that time, in consultation with the CAO, we decided that it probably was beneficial to have separate and distinct personnel policies. So the draft before you includes much of the information, just updated on various pieces of legislation since 2015. And then this is solely for the non-union group at the port. So that includes, I believe there's 7 or 8 of us now. But there are a few questions. So there's 2 options presented for you. So one of which includes three additional updates that have financial impact. So within our collective agreement, although it's on an Ontario regulated holiday, our unionized employees do have Family Day off. And then based on the increasing optometry costs, we're looking at potentially increasing the vision care from $450 to $500 per every 2 years, and protective clothing an increase from $400 to $500. So in the collective agreement, the employees have two sections, one for protective clothing and one a work boot allowance. But in the non-union group, we just have one. So we're looking to increase $500, and that would include work boots and protective clothing. So option 1 is adopting the personnel policy with those financial items included. And option 2 would be either picking and choosing or not supporting any of the 3.
Thank you. Mr. Ward?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it sounds like if I did some very quick math, 8 times about $200 or something like that, plus plus the family day off, which, so, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, it's fine. I'm jealous, but it's fine.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. So the total is 4,760 annually. So it's not a large number. And how does Family Day? I mean, you're paying Family Day anyway. It just won't be a work day, right? Is that?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So currently what's happening is the unionized employees are off, and then the
Mhm.
non-union employees are either using a lieu day or a vacation day.
Yeah. And so roughly the amount it brings the non-union for equity to union.
That's right.
basically. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. Thanks.
Mr. Smell?
No, I'm fine with it.
Eugene? Mr. McCauley?
All good.
Mr. Cameron? Thank you. I skipped that one. Sorry about that last one. So we're going to go to G, draft accessibility plan. Leslie?
Excuse me, you
sorry.
do have a recommendation in front of you that you need voting on.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry. Moved by Mr. Ward and second by Mr. Smell. Questions, comments? If any? All in favor? Thank you. Draft accessibility plan, Leslie, go ahead.
Thank you. So the Port of Johnstown operates under the Federal Accessible Canada Act and have for some time been required to have an accessibility plan. So we finally got to work and drafted a plan. As you know, for anyone that's been to the port, it is difficult from a workplace and employment perspective to offer accessibility accommodations. We will, however, as outlined in this draft report, which we're legislated to submit annually, we'll continue to work on how to achieve these 7 barriers. But right now, we're just looking to achieve compliance essentially with the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Any comments, questions?
No, not at this time. I mean, it makes sense to be having a policy and obviously working towards resolving some of our physical limitations to get there, to be honest, I guess. So, yeah, it's good.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Happy to move the recommendation as it's written.
My feelings exactly.
You want to second it? Eugene? Good. Mr. McCauley?
All good.
Mr. Cameron? Thank you again. Recommendation, the Port Management Committee recommends council endorses Port of Johnstown accessibility plan. Questions, comments, if any? All in favor? Carried. And H, draft updates and delegations and authority policy. Leslie, you're up again.
Sure. Thank you. So in keeping with the theme of updating our policies to ensure that they're compliant, the last delegation of authority with respect to the Port of Johnstown was adopted in 2017. So since that time, the township and various pieces of legislation have been updated. So presented to you this evening is an updated draft. So the changes have been made to reflect the procurement policy that was updated by the township, I believe, into the 2023. And in addition, I would like to see a clause added that the Port Management Committee and Council needs to be involved in the dismissal of management level employees. That is protection for both myself and my team at the leadership level. I don't believe that the Port General Manager should have had that discretion.
Thank you. Mr. Ward?
I was just in reading this and maybe maybe it makes sense, but I was noticing, I just sort of figured that if, as an additional delegate, to be honest, I would have thought that the CAO would have been a part of that, but maybe there's legal reasons or something we don't have them there or have them there. I'm not sure, but. It's just a comment. I mean, I just thought maybe just if ever you guys were out of town or something like that and we needed something to be done. But yeah, but anyways, it was just more of a comment than anything else. We don't need to resolve it tonight. That's fine. Oh, sorry. I just with regards to the delegation of authority, the Port GM and Ops Manager on here, but I would have thought as a third, unless there's maybe a legal reason, Mr. Mayor, that we would have had the CAO as a third emergency just in case on that. For that.
Automatically built in though. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Chris, for helping me with that. I think I understand. Giving the ops manager a little bit more ability to do a few things so that so that the GM isn't. I'm just kind of trying to come to grips with paying payments in accordance with approved contracts and approved travel budget when necessary. So those are being moved to yeses instead of no's.
Yes.
So it's to not micromanage. Is that the idea? Or yeah.
Yeah, so those two items are within their discretionary via their job descriptions right now.
Oh,
So
they
either and that's so I was just making sure this was accurate to what the job description, so we can either maintain status quo and change job descriptions or.
I'm just
Oh.
gonna look to the chair for a quick sec. At some point, can we get those job descriptions?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smell? Microphone.
But I had a loud enough voice, didn't need it. No, I'm good, thanks. I read it all day and it looked
Okay.
good to me.
Mr. McCauley?
No issues.
Mr. Cameron?
No issues. Thank you.
There he is.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks. I've been here. I just couldn't get it off mute before.
Oh, jeepers. I'm sorry about that.
No, not your issue, mine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Do you want me to move that recommendation? So
there's
that
recommendation.
Port Management Committee recommend that council endorses the Port of Johnstown delegation of Port Authority policy, and I'll move it.
And a seconder, please. Mr. Ward. Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. And thank you. 9, approval of the disbursements. Board account. Everybody had a chance to look at it?
I do, and this is my.
Good, you go ahead.
So, and I know that I know the answer to this before I ask it, but I still have to ask it. There's, the fumigation people that we are adding in as full-time people, that fumigation is for pests and to keep the product safe, like the soy and the grain safe. Am I right in thinking that?
Thanks. So it's a little of both. So when it comes to fumigation, we have to have 2 licensed employees under our MECP. We look at it as a whole quality program for it. So when we need 2 on site at all time, currently we have them, but now they're both management. So we're not technically on the floor anymore. I sign off on permits, but I'm just not available. So with those 2 guys, what they do, it is for integrity and grain quality. We tie that in with the temperature monitoring systems and aeration, but at the end, that's your last resort.
Okay.
That's like your insurance policy, having chemicals.
Yeah. And so where I was relating that back is the Able Pest Control. And
That-
so will it eliminate it or have nothing to do
What we
with?
did with Able, so we ran into a small, and that was more structural rodents. So that annex building out of the road this winter, they have quite a apartment complex going around the area, more so closer to the main structure. So we were starting to see some damage in at the rubber areas around seals and scales. And so we were really concerned, more not just quality, but then it's also a health and safety risk. If they were going to start composing, we were smelling ammonia more than we ever had. We didn't want to take as long as it does for us, because we'll bait and we control it and we'll monitor it. Most we're doing that is weekly, just again, staff restraints and what we're overlapping. Brought Able in, they just did it as traps. They cleared it out faster than we could have.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, will they be, I guess, getting to the point where they still be coming in every month and doing their thing?
They'd sure like to. Yeah. If we didn't have the rain sign, yeah, they've requested, they wanted to be able to do a quote on the whole building. I said currently we will have, because we have a structural license on site to handle that. His retirement plan is 14 months. So I've discussed it with the possibility of our 2 new guys that came on who wants to take that and that extra applicable license, they got to go through and get.
Okay.
So I said, if that isn't an option in-house, we may discuss that in 26, but as of for the 2025 year, no, not unless there was a truly outrageous incident that we required. That would have almost had to been a public concern. As we stand now, it's not anticipated. Localized scenario.
Thank you. Thank you. That was
For-
one of
just
my
for
questions.
reference,
Yes, go ahead.
Able, they're getting 20 mice a week
Right.
in that one spot.
20 mice? Mice? Oh,
That's in the office and the basement of the annex. Like, there's a real problem there.
okay. Mr. Smell?
Yeah, just one question. Did you ever get quotes from other than Able?
Yes, I did. Sorry.
Apparently they're the best.
I did. They were the best.
Mr. Stitt? Mr. McCauley? On a-
Every rodent you kill at the port is one less available to the cottagers, so I'm in support.
They're actually live trapping them and moving up river.
Mr. Cameron?
No, I'm good. Just surprised there's not a rat issue down there, guys.
Yeah, yeah, really. Okay, so is there any other issues with the disbursements? Everyone had a chance to look at them? I need a mover and a seconder for the disbursements. Moved by Mr. Ward, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Number 10, council inquires and notice of motion. Any? Mr. Mayor, Mr. Okay, 11 chairs report, just a little note. If I can find it. I was, as Leslie in her report said that Mike and I went to the farm show and it was very, very successful. And we met some brokers and well, new grain guy is going to be moving the ship out first time ever. So coming to the port. So that's great to hear. I was also, when I was walking around, I ran into one of our customers. He's a young farmer, about 27, 30 years old. And he farms 1,300 acres down in Finch. All his product comes to the port. He did one shipment last year to the Port of Montreal, and it was a disaster. And he said, never, never again. I learned my lesson. Everything's going to the Port of Johnstown, which is good to hear. But on the other side, he took his young family, his young daughter was at the aquatorium 2 years ago. And he saw in the front window our display of the port with the grain coming off and the balls and so on. And he explained to the daughter, and there's 2 or 3 other families from Ottawa. And of course, him, a farmer, was explaining how it worked and what the beans, the balls were. And he said his daughter right today, she's 4 years old, keeps talking about going back to the aquatorium to see this. So I thought it was worthwhile to say, because we did take a little heat. I think you, Mr. McCauley, you were on board at the time when we sponsored that at the aquatorium. So I said, if we had one child that got something out of it, I'd be happy. And well, there's the one child that I know. So anyways, it was a nice story. And his mother-in-law and father-in-law lives just on the corner there where Bickham's was, Frank.
Oh,
Yeah, right there. So anyways, little story, nice kid. Thank you. And moving on, question period, any question period? Sorry, they all left. And we have a closed session. So you let me know when we're going into closed session, please. Does
We,
anybody have
It's
it?
up to me, right?
Okay,
yes.
All right. So move by my, sorry.
put your mic on.
I
please.
will turn it on. Thank you, Chair.
all right, I think we need to leave now, right, for the close session?
Not till we're in closed session, Frank.
Okay, thanks.
So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chris Ward, that committee proceed into closed session at 8:14 in order to address a matter pertaining to Section 239-2B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically approve closed session minutes from January 23rd, 2025. Section 239-2A and C, the security of the property of the municipality or local board and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And section 239-2K, a position, plan, or procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or a local board. And that's it, Chair. Just need to write 8:14 and you need to call the question.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Closed session. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Night, Frank.
Bye-bye. Bye now.
Bye,
Night,
Mr.
Glenn.
Cameron. Thanks,
Thanks for
Mr. Cameron.
covering for me, Mr. Dillabaugh, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Talk to you. Thank you.